Today on Market Makers, we have with us Manish from ICICI Prudential Asset Management. Manish heads product communication at the AMC. In this episode, we are going to talk about India's energy sector as well as NFO of ICICI Prudential Energy Opportunities Fund. Welcome, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. On behalf of ICICI Pro AMC, thank you for inviting us.
It's a pleasure. Manish, we'll start with some basic questions. Powering your country, powering your portfolio is the theme of ICICI Prudential Energy Opportunities Fund. So, Manish, could you elaborate on this theme and as well as tell us the vision behind launching this fund?
Sure. So, to be honest, this is a theme which across our portfolios, we have invested a lot in this theme in the past. And it's not a, let's say, a 6 months or a 1 year phenomena. We've been doing it for long. If you look at our portfolios, 2018-19, we have invested quite a bit in energy or energy theme, energy companies. So we were very clear that we know this theme very well. We understand the nitty-gritty of these companies very well. And we had and we are still having dedicated investment analysts around this theme. And we've been following this theme a lot. So of late, we realized that this theme has a potential to actually become big. And when we're looking for the next 5 years or 10 year story of India, which is we say that India can become a Sone ki Chidiya, and the growth can become much better for India. We thought it cannot happen with energy sector going to the next level. So that's when we realized that this theme is becoming big and it has many legs in the coming years. So that's where the vision started, that we should have now a dedicated fund towards energy. And that's when we came up with this idea of ICICI Prudential Energy Opportunities Fund.
Interesting. And generally when we speak of energy, we think of it about power and electricity. However, I believe it is not restricted to that. So could you share, the diverse segments that the energy sector covers?
Absolutely. And I can relate to you, even if I talk to my parents or anybody. It's electricity is like they talk about whatever is there around in their houses, right? And today roti kapda makan used to be the basic necessity. Now people say electricity is also there, but from a frame of mind where it's all the house things which are there, whether we are talking about iPad, laptop, TV, refrigerator. But I'll give you some stats that only 11% of the India energy consumption goes to residential consumption, the house, whatever we consume in our houses. But the major portion, almost 40-45%, is consumed by industrials. So whatever we are wearing, whatever we are, let's say, medicines which we are using, chemicals, paints, everything, all that finished goods which we are seeing around us, all that is created in a factory which runs on electricity. So I'm saying the major part of the demand for energy comes out of from industrial side. So that's an aspect which is not in front of our eyes. What we see is house. So that's why it has a much bigger meaning. And apart from that, our transportation mobility is all dependent on energy. So whether we're talking about traveling by aircraft to one place to another, or going to office by our car, mobility is one factor which consumes almost close to 12% of energy which is consumed in India. So I'm saying these are diverse aspects which we don't realize that energy consumption has that kind of a pattern. Yes.
Interesting. And according to you, and particularly for this fund, what will be the investment strategy and how do you think this fund differentiates itself from other energy focused funds?
Very important question. I think when we talk about investment universe for this fund, like I gave you a very brief description, that energy is not only about what we consume in our houses. It's as diverse as going to industries, chemicals, etc. Similarly, when we talk about investment universe or the companies which we can invest, it's something similar. It's pretty diverse, pretty broad theme, because when we are talking about, let's say, a simple like oil and gas, oil and gas value chain, it has a complete value chain. So you can imagine the companies which are in the process of drilling oil from earth interior, and then there are companies which are involved in transporting that oil from one location to another, the major location. And then there are companies third, which are actually marketing these oil companies from where you're purchasing, whether I'm talking about petrol or diesel for your cars. So there are, in the complete value chain, there are n number of companies which are involved. Similarly, if I have to talk about power, the power value chain, you have companies which are actually generating electricity through hydro or thermal, and then there are companies involved who are transporting this electricity from that main location to sub location, and then finally companies which are actually involved in getting those electricity to your houses. So whole this value chain we can play. Companies which are there in solar value chain, companies which are there in wind value chain, and companies which are supporting this whole system. Supporting, I means companies maybe specialize in creating wires for transmitting electricity, companies which are providing meter solutions. So you have meters at your houses to understand what is your consumption and all. So as simple as those kind of companies also can be a part of this. So it's a very good broad investment universe which we have in this theme. And Milan, the second part which you have asked is that how do you differentiate it from other energy theme which is there in the market? So, uh, like like we said, one thing which is very clear when we are coming up with this energy theme compared to the products which are already available, one thing we can very comfortably say that this theme is where we have invested a lot. We have invested a lot in historically in across our portfolios. We have dedicated resources to look into these companies very closely. What are their quarterly earnings coming? What are their profitability, balance sheet, etc. So we understand the nitty-gritty much better. We can shape the portfolio much better. So that's something which we can give a comfort that what ICICI Prudential Energy Opportunities Fund or as an ICICI house brings to the table. And secondly, what we believe, this is a very good time for us to come up with an NFO, because when we talk about energy as a theme, it is a theme which is highly dependent on government regulation, reforms, etc. and all, whatever their regulations and all are there. So at least now we have a clarity that, okay, election is behind us, and this NFO is getting closed on 16th of July, and within 4 or 5 days we will have budget also. So at least we have the visibility of budget also, and post all this we will have a much better idea that how to shape up the portfolio, how to create the portfolio, what should be the proper allocation. So these two triggers is also there with us, which gives us much better idea. So I think we are in a better position to construct the portfolio. That's something which I'll say stands out for this fund.
Interesting. So it's well timed between after the elections and before the budget.
Absolutely. That's why we've been planning. So when you're talking about vision and all, we were thinking not to bring this vision to light until these kind of triggers are closer or exactly that shape. So we planned a lot for this NFO. Yes.
Nice. And how will the fund identify opportunities in the energy sector, as well as is there any criteria or model that you'll use for selecting stocks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we believe when we are going for this segment is that, see, energy companies is a very, I can say it's a heavy investment business. The gestation period can be long. It's not about that you start the business today and in the next 3 months you can enjoy the benefit. So that's why it becomes very important that when you're looking at these companies, you have to have certain filters. Especially we look at how is the FCF or free cash flow to the company, how is the balance sheet strength for the company, is their ROE growing at a steady pace, and also there are certain parameters which we look at to get a comfort that, okay, this company which we are talking about, because it's a investment heavy or infrastructure heavy business, they have a good balance sheet to support all that. So that's something basic level of filters which we look at. We also keep a track very closely on certain companies, let's say, which are conventional in terms of generating energy, but now moving into a new energy space. So we like those kind of companies which are now slowly moving to the new energy or green energy space, because when a tested player actually from a conventional space move to a new energy or green energy space, they are better equipped in handling any unforeseen volatility when they venture into a new space. So we like those kind of a companies also. That's also one criteria which we keep very closely, that a conventional company moving to the new energy space. So that's how the thing which we would be looking going forward.
Okay. And Manish, which kind of investor profile would best suit for this fund?
Yes, so it's a definitely it's a thematic fund, but I can give you some assurance around this, is that when we talk about thematic, the picture which comes into investors' mind is that, oh, is it a very aggressive, is it a very narrow theme? So one thing which I can give a comfort is that this is a broad theme. Like I explained, there are a lot of companies which are engaged in this complete value chain, whether I'm talking about oil and gas or power or solar or wind or energy ancillaries. There is a good amount of companies which are involved. So it's a broad theme, one which you should keep in mind. Second, when we are going to the proposed portfolio, when we are going to construct, the thought process is to have it more large cap in approach. So that also reduces a lot of risk around the portfolio, that you are investing in a large cap company is much stable, so lower volatility. That's second. And third thing, when you look at this theme, we are talking about energy. And like I said, it has become a necessity for us. We used to say roti kapda makan. Now people add that electricity or energy is also a basic necessity for us. Everything and anything, if you look around, is all dependent on energy. In fact, what we are doing right now, chatting with each other on a platform, it's all supported thanks to energy, right? So everything is so it's a theme which has a certain defensive bent to it. What I mean by defensive bent is that even if the economy go ups, if the economy goes through a tough time or a good time, still the demand for this segment can be much stable. So for example, like we say, FMCG is a defensive play, or pharma is a defensive play, because even if the economy is going through an ups and down, FMCG demand can be very stable, or a pharma demand can be stable, because that's you require to survive. So similarly, electricity also, we have seen the demand remains quite a bit stable. So it has a defensive bend attached to it also. So keeping all this in mind, a large cap, a defensive approach, a broad theme. So for investors, we will say, who are, let's say, moderate to high risk appetite investors, can also invest in this theme. And I would say, if you add indicative investment horizon, we would say minimum 3 years, and if it goes higher, it's better, because this is a theme where you don't have to take an exit call, like how you take for a normally sector or a theme call. I can confidently say that after 3-4 years also, after 3-4 years also, we would require energy at any point of time. So it's not something a 1 year or 2 year play, it's a long term play. So you can stay invested for long term also. Thank you.
Definitely. And maybe after 3-4 years, we'll require energy and more energy.
Yes, absolutely. I think if I have just 1 minute to extend that part, which you said, it's super important. Like if I have to give you one number, that in India the premiumization is going higher, and I'll give you one number, very interesting number, is that 2018. If you look at in India, if the total number of cars which are sold, let's say 100 cars are sold, uh, if out of that, hardly 15 or 16 cars would be SUV cars.
Yeah.
Today, if you look at the number of cars, or let's say if there are 100 cars sold today, almost 45 to 50% of those cars are SUVs. So it's a very gradual step towards premiumization. In India, it's AC is just 8% penetrated in the population. Refrigerator is 18% penetrated. That's it. Cars, which we say, hardly 5 to 7%. If you compare this with China and Japan, it's staggering numbers, right? They are much better penetrators. So like you correctly said, if this penetration improves a bit, premiumization improves a bit, the energy demand is not going to go out. In fact, it's going to go higher. So thanks for that point. Yes.
Premiumization plus the penetration, both could have a multiplier effect.
Multiplier effect. Absolutely.
Okay. And Manish, finally, as a fund house, what is your outlook on India's energy sector in this context, which we discussed?
Yes, I think when we talk about energy, and I think broadly it's kind of covered in various discussion which we had till now. But one thing which comes out is that, see, even the government is very conscious when we talk about energy, that they have actually created a lot of ambitious projects also, and they are kind of implementing that on a year-on-year basis, like be net zero by 2070, or by 2030 we would be having almost 45-50% capacity which would be renewables. We will try to reduce our carbon prints, or we will have more of gas penetration in countries. So all these are where we can clearly see, or we can get those catalysts in place, especially from the government side, that government is very serious that in India, and if I have to give you a fact, that India is the third largest energy consumer in the world. Still, it's a developing economy, but it's still consuming third largest. So government is very cognizant about the fact that energy plays a very, very important role for India to grow to the next level, and we have to be more towards the renewable space, etc. And all. So what we feel is that this is going to be the bedrock for any kind of a growth story what India is going to look at, whether we are talking about manufacturing in India, make in India projects, etc., etc. All for all these projects to actually come to do well, the bedrock is energy, and the government is very clear about that. So what we see is that if we are looking at the India's future, where the growth story is looking strong, government is clearly committed towards that. I think if we put all this in place, I think energy is a theme which is going to be there for not for 1-2 years. It's a decadal theme. It's a decadal theme, and India, like a growing economy, can definitely the energy demand is going to go higher. So you cannot compromise even for 1 or 2 years that you can say, "Oh, I'm not gonna look at energy investment, etc." and all, and sit back. It is a decadal theme. You're going to see it year on year. It going much better and better. So investor can have a good experience from this theme. That's what we believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you for taking out time and sharing your insights.
Sure. Thank you, Milan. Once again, on behalf of ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund, thank you for giving us an opportunity. Thank you.
All the best for the NFO.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.